All right. I hope you guys can hear me now, and I do apologize for the delay, but we will get this show on the road. So, uh, welcome everybody, and I do apologize again for the technical issues we had. Just to let you know, I did lose my slide that I normally run, so I do apologize. You won't be seeing that today. But anyhow, we'll go right into full swing into today's session. So first off, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Webinar Wednesday. My name is Franklin, and I'm the Product App Specialist for KITS and your webinar host. Now, spring seems to be in full swing as I see the grass starting to turn green, and I hear the birds again chirping outside the windows. Long gone are those cold winter days, and also the Orlando Magic as the Toronto Raptors now move on to the second round of playoffs. Sorry, just had to cheer on the home team. So again, welcome everyone to Webinar Wednesday. Now, just in case you have any questions, you can submit them in the chat box. That's going to be located in the go-to webinar control panel. Should be on the right side of your screen. What I'll do is I'll take a few minutes at the end of today's webinar to answer any questions. Also, as a reminder, our next free training webinar is set for Thursday, May 9th at 3 p.m. So be sure to attend, especially if you're new to KITS or just need a review. All you need to do is go to our KITS Knowledge Center and click on the Resource tab to register for all our webinars. Also look out for Julia's KITS community emails as well. All right. With that being said, we're going to get on with today's webinar. Now, today I'll be showing you how creating environments can enhance your project. So what I really want to go over with you is understanding the importance of the rendering and the environment, using the Include Environment feature, and then also using the KOE catalog to create environments, as well as including my top fives. Okay? All right. So first off, I'm going to go ahead and open up my kits. Now, the first thing I want to discuss with you is really a question. Why are renderings important? All right. Now, you may think a rendering is just an easy image that we create here with the tools that we have at hand. Now, renderings are simply visual proposals that illustrate basically the attributes of a project to the client. Well, that's the technical sort of answer. Now, what does it mean? What are these attributes? What a rendering truly conveys in our industry is a visualization that is much greater than just the technical aspects of the space. It allows really the audience, our clients, to understand how the elements fit and support human function in a built environment. Now, the art of a good rendering is being able to identify the importance of the illustration by presenting it in sort of a point of view. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, visualizations require purpose, especially for an intended audience. That, again, those are our clients. It's up to us to recognize exactly what that importance is. And what I like to use is, and I do this all the time, and I use the scenario of an executive manager that's client-facing, understanding that the executive needs a nice office space, and most likely because they're sort of on the front line because they meet clients. Fit and finish of the space needs to accommodate both the executive as well as the people that are going to be visiting them. Now, when you think about what the importance of that scenario is it the furniture that's going to support the manager, the executive, or is it the interaction of the executive with the company's clients? So sort of understanding that scenario will give you a better idea of, again, the true purpose of the visualization. Because at the end of the day, we could always show the client exactly what that furniture looks like, but it's going to be hard to illustrate why that furniture or why we came up with that solution. How it's going to support, again, at the core, what they require the furniture there to be. Okay? So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of take you through a scenario where we're going to take a look at some of the features that we can go through with KITS to creating these spaces. All right? So I'm going to go ahead and open up just a project here, and let's see. Let's get a private office going. I have a few up here. Let's just go up to these ones. Okay. So here we have an executive office again. All right. So we have a wonderful space. And again, we can sort of go with the same scenario as this is the space that we're going to use, or this is the solution that we have for an executive that's going to be client facing. So again, fit and finish of the space needs to accommodate both the executive as well as the people visiting that executive. So I'm going to go ahead and make some just quick changes here. We're going to make it nice and, if you want to say elegant, I don't know if that's the correct word for it, but we'll do our best to making it look snazzy. Okay. And again, what you can always do is whenever you're editing finishes and you need to apply a finish against several items within the space, what you can always do is you can always use the replace all feature. And what that will do is it'll apply the finishes that I select now to any other component that shares a similar specification structure. Okay. So you can see how quickly that turns over that space. Let's also just quickly finish this. Nice and dark. All right, let's go ahead and make some changes here. And lastly, we'll make some quick changes here. Let's use a grade 2. And one last thing, let's also change that to a black mesh. Okay, so there we have our office space. And again, based on the client requirements, we've now completed this office. So first thing I'm going to do is obviously create a rendering. All right. And because I understand that this is a space that's going to accommodate the clients, what I want to do is I want to put a focal point in my illustration on this area here. All right. Now, again, just to reiterate this, and I talk about it most of the time and always during the webinars, is that understand the rendering that we're creating in most cases is going to be a 2-point perspective. Okay. What that 2-point perspective requires is basically a horizon line that's going to run, and let's say it's going to run just about equal to where this work surface is, so that it becomes a separator between the bottom furniture and the top furniture. Then we have our focal point, which we're going to place, which is actually right here. And the angles that are created within this space are based on 2 points that are along that horizon line. All right. So again, that's just the technical aspect of creating a 2-point perspective. And in most cases, when we create renderings, especially 2-dimensional renderings, they also must always have 2 points. Okay. And the reason why I want to talk about this is because this will also sort of play with understanding how it can fit into a photo. And we're going to get to that a little bit later when we go into the include environment feature. All right. So again, my focal point is this space. So let's create that quick rendering. And as you can see, the difference between creating a rendering when you have it in this perspective view as opposed to in this perspective view is quite significant, because it now lessens the importance of what is actually going to be happening right here. And this is basically where the action is. This is where the company is going to make their money, because their top clients are coming to visit this executive. So sort of understanding that dynamic should really help guide you into understanding what you need to illustrate in terms of the rendering that you're going to show. Now, again, you have kits. You can render as many times as you want. You can render in many positions as you want. Don't feel like you always need to render all the furniture in one shot. You may want to play focuses. You may want to play, or you may want to position this in a way to convey a story that you want to tell your client. Okay, so it really comes down to what is necessary to convey exactly why your solution makes sense. All right. All right. So we have those wonderful renderings. And again, if I visit the view previous renderings, I can see all these wonderful renderings that I've taken. Okay, even right from the white furniture. Okay, so what we have now is basically the layout, and obviously you can see here that it may not exactly, let's say, jive or resonate with our clients in terms of seeing the furniture in white space. Okay, so what do we have in kits that allow us to create quick environments? And the reason why this is important, because sometimes it just requires for your client to see what the furniture is going to look like within the context of a building. Okay, what I mean by a building is basically something within 4 walls. Okay, so if we go to HD render and we go to include environment, at the bottom we have the option of selecting samples. Under our samples, you can see all the different environments that we've created for you to quickly use. Okay, so again, it's a matter of playing with these environments and understanding how layouts can fit, because not every layout is going to fit exactly where you want it. All right, so I want to convey this as, again, it's going to be somewhat like a private office. So let's see if I bring this in here. Let's see what happens. Okay, so there's my space. And what I need to do is I need to position this layout according to the perspective lines. And what are these perspective lines I'm talking about? Well, these lines here, just like, as I mentioned in a 2-point perspective, is how I need to set up this layout in this space so that it follows the proper perspective of the image itself. Okay. Now I have a very quick way of setting this up. Okay. First off, what you'll need to do is you'll need to position your layout accordingly. So if you have a grid, and let's say you have some parameters that the client has provided you, so you've adjusted your grid to reflect exactly the space in which this furniture is going to go into, then you need to position the furniture as if the boundary lines of the floor grid are the walls of that space, regardless of what the architecture is. There could be columns in here, there could be windows, whatever. The idea is that you set this up accordingly so that, again, you're not going to place a work wall or tall verticals against a window that's all glazing. All right, these are things that we commonly understand. And so what we need to know and what we need to understand is, again, if we're going to provide overheads, then we know that this is a solid drywall that's going to be behind this workstation. There very well could be glazing all around it, but what matters most is understanding where this actual furniture is going to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to determine, again, based on the floor grid, where I'm going to set this up. Okay? Once you align it properly and you've selected your image, you know that this back end is probably going to fit somewhere around here. Okay, and judging from the floor grid and the way I've set it up, I want to make sure that the corner, let me just go back to my plan view, this corner is going to be positioned around this corner. All right, so first thing I want to do is I want to do a select all of my furniture. I want to group that together. Now I'm going to delete it. I'm going to take my floor grid, I'm going to place the corner in the right corner where I want it to be, and now using the rotate button or the rotate function, I'm going to rotate my grid. So again, it follows the proper perspective lines of the walls that are already in the space. Okay. Once I'm satisfied that my floor grid is following this line and also this line, I'm going to go ahead and click undo to bring the furniture back in. And now I know that it's properly set within this image. Now, obviously, there's some issues here because we got some glazing. But again, the idea, again, is to understand what this furniture looks like within the context of a space. Okay? So let's go ahead and create a quick rendering of that. All right. So that's a quick environment. Now, if you're not satisfied with that environment, you can change it as many times as you want. All you need to do is simply go into your samples, go into our samples, and then again, finding the proper space. Now, if it's like a studio loft, industrial style, then you may want to just bring it into a space that also resembles that. Again, because there's some architecture there and there's some finish elements that'll resonate with the client to see. Maybe it's an importance of color. Maybe they're not sure of the type of finishes that you've selected, and they want to see it against sort of that kind of palette. Well, then you want to make sure that you use something that conveys that or that reflects that. Okay. Again, it's all a matter of playing around with all the different images here to understanding again how this can fit. Now, using a space like this may not be obviously the right answer because again, we're losing focus here, but there's no reason why you can't just use it as a backdrop. Okay, so understand again that it really comes down to understanding what you need to do in order to, again, get that message across to your client. So if it means just placing it in a space, then what I can do is I can actually bring it up a little bit closer. And so maybe they just see it against the wall with some ceilings, and that may actually help them out as well. Okay, now I did use this space. There's no reason why you can't add a back wall either. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Well, I'm going to go into my plan view. And now I'm going to go right into the Kits Design Collection. Let's go ahead and find some walls. Here I can go to wall configurations. I need to make sure that I have, again, a solid wall behind sort of that work wall. Let's see if this fits. I'm hoping it does. Or I'll just have to make some quick adjustments. Okay, so here again, you can see in 3D view what that looks like. I'm placing a back wall behind there. All right. I have a little bit more of a gap, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into the KOE catalog. Now I jumped right into the KOE catalog. If you haven't played around with this catalog, we created this to allow you to really enhance your projects by adding elements that'll help you humanize your scenes. Okay, let me just adjust this back wall now. And that should be good. Okay, I'm going to just add a quick color. And that was sort of a neutral that was in that space. So let's see if we can try to use something similar. All right, again, creating that 2-point perspective, you can see how quickly it transforms, even in just the kit space alone, how quickly it transforms what that looks like as soon as you add an environment around it. All right. So again, at first I can create that quick rendering so we can take a look at what it looks like there. Now, if I go back to my photo view, you can see again that now I can adjust it according to what I have in this space, let's take off that floor grid, so I can sort of see again what it looks like within a closed space. Okay, so there's different ways that you can utilize a lot of the sample environments that we have. It's really a matter of understanding exactly what you need. Now, you may be wondering, oh, the client's going to see this cut wall. Well, guess what? And this is what I always tell everybody. You don't necessarily have to send the rendering in its native original format. What I like to do is I like to create it based on what I need to show my client. So I'm just going to use Office Paint just because it's a quick way of showing this. But if this is the space that I want to show, then all I'm going to do is make sure that what my client's going to see is this space. Okay, let's just say new. Don't save. Ooh, that's quite big. We're going to have to reduce this. And I'm just going to pick a number out of here. Let's go 50%. And let's resize that again. What I could do is I could just size this one. And let's just throw in a number here. 900 should be okay. Nope. Let's go backwards. Okay. Let's do this one more time. Okay, resize. And horizontal, we want to reduce this. We want to say roughly 648 as well. Okay. Nearly done there. 1,000 might be okay. Okay. So again, it's a matter of playing around. And again, you're going to want to make sure you adjust it accordingly. But again, you can see how quickly I was able to take that image and just do cutout of the space. So then I'm still utilizing the environment that we created, but I'm also showing it within closed walls. Okay, so there's a lot of things that you can do with that image. Again, if you're familiar with photo processing, you could actually take it into there. You can create sort of a mood or ambience based on different finishes and effects. It's really up to you. But the idea here is that what you can do is you can do as many adjustments as required in order for you to tell your story. And creating this rendering and visualization, again, is a way for you to explain your story, your reasoning as to why the solution works and how the furniture is going to fit and support human functionality within that space. Okay? And again, this is just using Paint. It's not really the best photo editor to use. It's just something quick that I can turn around. I can do a copy and then I can just paste it right into email, so I don't necessarily have to show them, especially if you just need to show them a quick shot. These are things that you may want to consider. Okay? All right. So you can see again how quickly we're able to show the client what the space looks like using some elements such as the sample environment as well as KOE catalog items. All right, so I'm going to go into my 3D view back. And another thing that I want to do is, okay, so we got that shot. I'm now actually going to change this up a bit. And what I want to do is, actually better yet, what I'll do is I'll just duplicate this. Okay. Now, based on what I explained earlier, what I wanted to do is I wanted to show the importance of this particular space because this is where all the action is going to happen for my client. So I want to make sure that, again, I have walls where I need them to support exactly the solution that I have here. Next, what I want to do, and you can see I didn't actually create a full wall. I didn't even create a space that's large enough to fit. I just created walls that can accommodate the perspective that I want to take. Now, I'm going to go ahead and add some flooring, because one thing about creating a rendering in a white space is you don't have the demarcation points that you would normally have with the walls and architecture. All right, so let me show you what I mean by this. Okay, just going to bring in the floors, and I'm going to have to duplicate that. Make sure we got full coverage. Okay, let's add a quick neutral finish. And then I'm just going to quickly do select all on all the walls. I want to group them together, and now I'm just going to remove them. So you can now see the importance of having flooring to actually create those demarcation points. Because if I just had the flooring, okay, let me group this together and remove. If I just had the flooring and I did this rendering, well, I don't necessarily know what the size of this office is because it's all against white space. But if I include flooring, then that tells me something differently. Regardless of not having any walls, I can still see that the walk points aren't going to be obstructed by any architectural element, maybe additional furniture that needs to go into the space. I can see that, again, this is going to be able to accommodate everything that's required within the size of the space itself. Okay. Now, we have several flooring options to choose from. Even though it says carpet or rug, they don't necessarily just have those finishes for carpeting or rugs. You can certainly actually select any one of these, and you have full access to some of the other stuff. So again, you have all carpeting here, okay? But for carpet 10, carpet 12, carpet 15, you have a full array of wood, ceramic, and carpet flooring finishes. All right, let's get our walls back in. And there we go. So now that I have everything that I need, I can go ahead and take that rendering. Okay, again, you can see how quickly that transforms the space simply by adding walls and flooring to this project. All right, so let's throw in my top 5. Now, for every project that I work on, I always have a top 5. What that top 5 is basically elements that are going to help me humanize the scene by allowing me to put architectural elements like I have in here, equipment such as computers, laptops, phones, printers, etc., decorative items. I have a favorite red mug, and then people and also other decorative items like plants. My top 5 always starts off with some kind of equipment. So it depends on the space. For these private offices, especially executive, I like to use laptops. Some type of communication, usually it's an executive, I'll use a cell phone. If it's a middle manager, then maybe I have a landline. But for the executive, I like to use a cell phone. And then a decorative item, my red mug. And the reason why I like to use the red mug is sometimes you want to detract from putting color into your layout because that may sway a client a different way, right? Not everybody has the same appreciation for color. So you always got to be careful on how you use it. All right, so what this red mug does, it allows me to add a bit of pop of color, especially if the space is quite neutral. All right, So I like to use, again, a laptop, a cell phone, a red mug, a person, and my favorite person is Can, PM9. You'll see him soon. And then also another decorative item, such as a plant. And my favorite plant is my ficus that I created, and that is, I believe it is plant F1. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to go into the KOE catalog, and I'm going to start off with adding equipment. Let's get that laptop going. And I'm going to adjust everything as soon as I have all my items on the playing field here. Okay. I need to get my accessories. And so again, the KOE catalog is going to be under the Kits Design collection. That's the vendor name. Everybody has access to it. Okay, all you have to do is download both the KOE catalog and the KOT catalog, and those, again, will allow you to enhance your project. What I do suggest is that you take the time to explore it, to understand exactly what's there and how you can use it, and then familiarize with the items, again, that you can use for your top 5. And the reason why you want to create a top 5 is because they're going to be easy and quick for you to add to the scene that will just give the least amount of notion of how that space is going to be used, how the furniture is going to support the people in that space. Okay. And where's my ficus? Plant F1. I'll put them right there. Let's now add some quick colors here. And now we're going to adjust everything in the space. First off, I need to raise this cell phone because it's on the floor. Now you may be wondering why a cell phone is on the floor. Main reason is because we couldn't determine exactly what the height should be because it's a cell phone. And what I mean by that is sometimes it could be on, let's say, a coffee table or a side table. And so we just made sure that it appeared on the floor so we can adjust. Simply enough, all you have to do is select up, down. Make sure your snap to is on so that it will always snap to the top surface of the workstation or table that you want to place it in. Now you will have to turn off your snap to at times so that you can freely adjust where you place your items. Okay. The reason why I like using Can is because not only is my favorite guy, he fits every manufacturer chair that's in the market. Now what I like to do is I like to ungroup, in case my furniture is grouped together, I like to ungroup the chair and the furniture so I can group Can with the chair so that anytime I move them, they move together as one. Okay. Now again, this is an executive. I can see how the furniture is going to support his work. He needs clients. So I'm going to go ahead and add another person. And again, regardless, of having a top 5, it doesn't mean that you're just set on having to use only those 5. The idea here is that you use as many as required in order to illustrate your story. Okay. And it's quite funny. I just had this conversation with some people here, and there's a game that I used to play with years ago called Sims, or Sims People, and this is a lot like playing that video game. So, all right. Again, adding the environment, the walls, the flooring, and now adding the people and the items within the space start to give a better picture and illustration of exactly how this space is going to be used. Okay, and you can see every time we add a bit of those elements, how quickly it changes the effect of this rendering. Okay, and let's take a look. So you can see what the rendering looked like. We did a great rendering here that really illustrates the importance of the space. But again, against a white background, sometimes it doesn't truly convey what we need to show our client. There's no reason why you can't use it, because obviously you need the client to see the furniture. This is also a great way for the client to understand exactly whether or not they like the furniture. Okay. But then as soon as we start to add different elements, such as the walls, all of a sudden it takes on a different sort of appeal. Then we add different environments. You can now see what it looks like in this type of environment with a concrete floor, with glazing behind it. Again, this one that we did, even though we did a cutout, you can see what it looks like against the carpet tile, drop-down lighting. Okay. And now, of course, the one with the actual people itself. So every image that, again, we just did illustrates a little bit more and more and more. Okay, and that's sort of how I like to set up my projects. You know, again, I always, and you can see here, I always like to create a line drawing that provides my client with a footprint. And because this is Kit, it's not a design tool. And I know a lot of people get sort of hung up with wanting to put dimensions. The sole purpose that we created this was a sales accelerator. All right, so that the nitty gritty that you need to do for these projects can be done with the specification tools that are intended to create these type of orders. All right, so you could always validate your project by taking it into 2020 or Project Matrix. The CIF file that we generate can be imported into any one of those tools. You could take the AutoCAD file and send it to your client. Send it to your designer, and they can validate it against the larger floor plan. So there's all these things that are in place to allow you to truly create a customized, unique project. Okay, so we've done all that. I'm quite happy. Let's just make sure we save this. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in, but I'm going to create a copy. And I want to remove all my architectural elements. Okay, so now again, I'm left with a white space. So I showed you how you can use the sample environments under Include Environment. You also have the option of selecting a photo. And I click on New Photo. This will allow me to now open up my browser, and I can now bring in a photo that I can use against this project. So what this means is, if I don't have access to the client's office space, you know, in a perfect scenario, the space that you need to place the intended furniture in is empty. Fingers are crossed. But you can have your client take a picture of that space, and then they can send it to you. Okay, simply enough, they could take a picture with their cell phone. Now, there should be some proper photography alignments in order for you to get enough information of the space so that you can place the furniture in. But simply enough, here I'm just going to use any image, even though it says conference room. Let's just use this for now, and I'll bring it in. Okay, so here's the image I want to use. So again, I'm going to go back. I'm going to make sure my floor grid is on, so I can see my floor grid. We're going to make sure that we do a select all, group all the items together, and just as I did before, I'm going to delete them. Okay. Now I can adjust this by positioning my floor grid and then placing the furniture. And I'll probably have to make some quick adjustments, but you can see again the potential of now being able to get access to the client space, or not being able to get access to the client space, but having your client take a picture of the space so that you can place furniture within it. Okay? Again, it's really a matter of how they can take that photo and how it can be shared to you. But again, you can see here some of the issues that you might run into is, again, having the proper space. But it's a great feature, and I do apologize, I should have mentioned this. It's a feature that is available to all our Windows 10 users. As with the iPad, you can actually take a picture using your iPad of the client space itself. Okay, so give it a whirl and see how you can use these features to enhance your next project. All right. All right, well, that pretty much takes me to the end of today's session, where I showed you all the different features that you can actually utilize to creating these environments, why it's important to add an environment to your rendering. So it's really a matter of, again, understanding what you're required to provide your client. Now, at best, what I really want you to take away from today's webinar is that recognizing, again, what your client is looking for will help you determine sort of not only the solution that you need to create, but also the way it needs to be illustrated. All right, so environments can be a key trigger to accelerating your project to being sold. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to see if there are any questions. And let me just get to the questions here. All right, so I got a few questions here. So the first one is there any way that environments of single private offices can be put into the typicals? This is actually a great question. Now, I have a solution for this. What we actually can't do right now is import a KITS project into another KITS project. All right. So what we can do in lieu of this, just save this, is we can create our own set of standards. Okay, so what I have here are office environments that I've created in lieu of, of all the different type of projects I work on. So here I have a 10-foot by 10-foot private office, and this one says right, and that's because it has glazing on the right. I have here another 10-10 private office left, and again, that's because glazing is on the left. So what I've done is I've set up some of these different standards so that I can use them anytime I need to create a space. Now, even though I don't know what the space requirements are, remember for the rendering, all I need are 2 points in order to illustrate the walls that are going to surround the actual furniture. Okay, so think about it. It's in a way, it's a way that what you can do is you can sort of prepare some of these environments. And what I've done here for this large conference area, okay, as you can see, I'm just going to zoom out. Again, you can see it's kind of unstructured. You know, the walls run into glazing and all that, and you know, I know those are architectural faux pas, and obviously we don't like to see spaces like that. But again, this is being able to turn around a quick rendering so that you can show this to your client. What you can do is you can create these larger spaces so that if you need to start reducing them, you can certainly do so. Because at the end of the day, what you want to do is you want to be able to show your client let me just click on that. exactly what the space looks like based on a set of parameters. Now, they'll never know what the actual dimensions are. And obviously, we're going to make sure we're going to keep it as close as possible by using the floor grid. But by doing something that's loose like this, what you can do is you can make quick adjustments to it so that you can actually create these environments. Now, you'll have to actually use these as a template, right? So what I mean by that is I've created all these projects, and before I've actually included them or before I've actually started my project, I would bring in one of these standards that I would use. So at least I have the backdrop there, and then I can begin importing from the galleries or possibly from creating any of the projects from scratch. Okay, so you can see here, even just quickly using this, regardless of the fact that I don't have it completely closed off, it's all a matter about positioning. Okay, because what we're truly after here is how the wall or how the furniture is going to be supported by the surrounding architecture. Okay, and it doesn't limit you from adding more architectural elements. So it's a matter of, again, just taking the time to understand what you need to do, creating these standards. And I just did a few 10-10. You can do a 10-15, 12 by 12, 15 by 15. What I like to do is, because I already have carpet sizes predetermined, 10, 10, 12, 12, 15, 15, then what I would do is I would base different scenarios on those carpet sizes. Okay, and if you just create different standards, left and right, just as I did here, then what you do is, before you start any project, you don't want to edit the original. Create a copy. Here's your copy. Go ahead and start your project. All right, so that's one way of actually doing it, and right now is the current way that we normally do it. Okay, so there's another question here, and it says, it would be nice if at some point actual plans of spaces could be brought into kits. Again, we do understand this, but when it comes down to it, kits is not a design tool, okay? And we intentionally created that as it not being a design tool. I could tell you certainly that the plumbing is there. We've tested adding floor plans, but then it really starts to blur the lines between how salespeople are really going to use this, right? Because again, the intended user isn't going to have the same design acumen that some of us designers that have sort of ventured into the sales realm sort of have, and it's a fine line that we have to draw, and I do understand, and believe you me, as a designer myself, it would be great to have some kind of floor plan that we can add, but there's different ways of doing it. And again, the intention that we created was so that we can provide these visuals so that clients can make, again, quick decisions, accelerating that sales process. And then I have one more question here, and the question is, can one download a JPEG of an empty office and use it to, there we go, and use it for a pre-built preset environment? Yes, you can. I just showed you that. So again, just think of it as photography 101. Because the way you take that picture is going to be important to how it aligns in your kits. Okay. Play around with it, and if you have any questions, certainly give me a direct call or email, and I can take you through the steps to sort of understanding how you can position it and how you can create it so that it fits your layouts. All right. So it looks like those are all the questions we got for today. So first off, thank you to the KITS community for participating each and every week. Don't forget, we're always looking for your submissions to becoming our next KITS collaborator. Now, what's the KITS collaborator? Let me just take you to the collaborator page. Okay. Our KITS collaborator effort is based on all these wonderful users that have shared their experience with using kits, how they were successful with it, maybe what features they used in kits that helped them, again, accelerate that sale. Okay, we want everybody to be a kits collaborator. It doesn't matter your level of experience. You could be a beginner, you could be an intermediate user, you can be our power user. If you haven't been a collaborator in the past, give us a call, let us know, share your story. We love to share them with our community. It really gives sort of a different view on how people use the tool. Sometimes they're inspirational points. I know we've had different stories on here before where one of our viewers actually read the story and it sort of inspired them to use kits in the same manner. So there's different things that you can actually get from listening to your peers reading their stories. So please, I urge everybody to become a kits collaborator. And hey, we reward you for your efforts. Okay? Anybody that becomes a kits collaborator is rewarded with a $50 Amazon gift card. All right? There's no strings attached other than telling us your story. So if you want to find out more information about it, let us know, and we can direct you to again, sharing your experience with us. All right? All right. Again, what I always like to add to that is it's really easy. Okay? We're really looking at all different experiences. So again, don't feel that, don't feel too reluctant to having to share it. I mean, there's really no strings attached to this. We just want you to share your stories with the rest of our community. All right. Don't forget to sign up for our next free basic training webinar. That's going to be on May 9th. And also look out for any upcoming news and announcements via email or by visiting our KITS Knowledge Center. Well, that's it for today, folks. Thanks again for attending, and I hope to see you back right here next week for Webinar Wednesday. Bye, everyone.